apps or tell me what to do.
And wow.
And they gave me like chloroform or something. And some saline, but I'm like, I don't feel comfortable doing that. Like that, I'm not gonna,
Wow. Wow. Hey, Doc.
Wow.
Our two favorite people are here.
My two absolute most favorite people.
We know we're your favorite. So
did you notice? Did you notice the Jesus light that's coming down on me?
Yes, I see that.
That's not from the
that's
light
natural.
It's kind of forming a halo almost.
I noticed like a crow or some kind of a raven or something over here.
I see that too.
That's now.
It's a light switch.
That's right. It's a light switch. How are you guys doing?
Cute. Yeah, really good here. It's a little, I don't know what's going on yet. We're just so happy to see each other.
I bet. So how long have you been back?
We got home Tuesday night and Rhett is just doing unbelievably great.
Well, good.
Unbelievable. Yeah.
Well, how about you, Bree?
Yeah.
Bree could not make it, but no, I'm doing good. Bex, I was just telling Jonna, we went to the vet and they didn't do anything. They didn't even clean the elbow wound.
Ouch.
And and so I like, as they're like, okay, bye. We took her stitches out on her ankle, and I'm like, hey, did you look at her elbow? Did you clean it? And they're like, no. I mean, yeah, the doctor took a peek and she's fine with it. And
ouch.
And didn't clean it. And they gave me like chlor of something.
Chlorhexidine.
Yeah. They gave me like a soaked chlorhexidine pad in a plastic baggie and a saline pad. And they just said, do one and then the other. And I haven't done it yet because I'm like, if they didn't do it
clean. Yeah, it's fine to keep it clean. I'm just surprised they didn't I would have got a staple gun and go chick chick and it would have been over. That happened.
No.
I mean, dogs getting their sutures out is just part of life. I mean, geez.
Yeah.
And like I said, most of us we have a staple gun and we just go chick chick. And I mean, they go, yo, and then it's all over. It's closed again. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
I stopped trying to figure out things in regards to what veterinarians do and don't do.
I know. I mean, you're really seeing it because I think, you come from an amazing perspective and you've seen the flaws along the whole way of your journey. But now I feel like through the pandemic and post-pandemic, it's more reckless than ever. Like they're so used to just rushing through and not having any interface with the humans and not giving a shit and making money. And like, I feel like the vet that I used to really trust, that whole clinic, I don't have any faith in,
That's tough.
And I feel like that's universal,
I felt during that COVID when that, people would have to drop their pet off. I have to admit, I don't know how I could have functioned as a veterinarian to do that because it is so vitally important to be able to communicate with the client face to face, and to not do that is just makes it almost impossible because you're communicating, you're talking and back and forth, and it has to be Gosh. I bought a clinic one time from a guy. That's exactly what he'd do. He never would talk to the clients. He would stay in the back and he would send a tech out front. He just didn't like to talk to clients, and it was like, how in the world can you function like that?
Wow.
I mean, you've got to know that these people, you've got to have a trust factor. You've got to be able to look them in the eyes. And so I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I don't want to say the compassion's gone out of veterinary medicine, but the humanness has gone out of the approach in a lot. And again, there's a lot of exceptions to the rule. There's still a lot of very fine veterinarians out there, but I don't know. It's funny. I was walking the dogs at the park yesterday and ran across a lady that I know. And she has a 7-year-old Labrador named Wheezy. And I asked her, I said, well, how's Wheezy doing? And she said, well, she's doing fine. She recovered from her surgery. And I said, oh, I didn't know she had surgery. I said, what she had surgery for? And she said, well, she ate a toy. And I said, yeah, well, that's bad about Labradors. And she said, yeah, it was the second surgery too that she had. And I said, yeah, that's one of the fears that we have with our Labrador, because she knows our Labrador puppy too. And So I said, I can't even imagine being a vet without a clinic these days, because if something like that happened, I would have done the surgery. I said, I can't even imagine what something like that would cost now. She said $3,300 for the surgery.
Yep.
And
Yeah.
I used to do a gastrotomy for $550.
Wow.
10 years ago. That was it. 10 years ago.
Bex's 2 little lumps. That was $1,600. 2 little removals.
Yeah. It's gotten crazy. So looks like Denise is here.
I'm
I
not
see
sure
it.
who Denise
Denise,
is.
are you here?
Yes,
Her-
I'm here. I was still muted. So,
Who is Denise a new person?
yes.
Hi, welcome.
Denise.
Hi, how are you?
Good. Good. How are
We
you?
can hear you, but we can't see you.
Oh, I know my phone. Sorry, my phone is giving me grief somewhat today.
That's okay. So how are you doing?
Doing good. So I was gonna ask you a question. I was wanting to get, because I have Asher, I've been coming to you for the allergies with him.
Right.
And you just changed the meds on him a couple months ago. But
Okay.
his scratching went off the deep end again. And
Okay.
so I did a Cytopoint injection yesterday. But I
Okay.
was wanting to do that Glacier Peak pet testing analysis on his food to see if I could try to narrow down the foods on there.
That's a good plan.
Can I do that where he just got Cytopoint yesterday?
Yes. Absolutely. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So do you know how to get that kit?
I think I contact the Glacier Peak and then they mail it to me and then I
Yeah.
can send it back in.
I don't know where you live. I can't remember where you live, but
Spokane.
oh, you live in Spokane. Then
Yes.
Let's see. Some of the pet stores have the kit.
Oh, they do.
Yeah. God, what's the one I go to? Whereabouts in Spokane do you live?
I'm up on the South Hill. I'm
Okay.
near the Mercantile Pet on 50, right by 57th.
Okay, I don't know if Mercantile has it. I haven't been in that one in a long time. You know the one over by the McDonald's, where Trader Joe's?
Yes.
Yeah, you know that pet store?
Yes, I do.
They've got it.
Perfect. There's a couple, isn't it like Petco that's over there or something?
Yeah, that's not the one. It's that little boutique one.
Oh, the boutique one. Okay.
Yeah, right. It's in the same parking lot as Trader Joe.
Got it.
Okay, right
I'll
next.
go.
You know where there's a Wells Fargo right on the corner, and it's
Yep.
right next to the Wells Fargo. You can't miss it. It's a little bitty boutique. I can't remember. It'll pop in my mind, but the really nice people. And I know they have it because that's where I got one for my dog when I did the Glacier Peaks test.
Okay.
Denise, what's your last name
Beck. B as in boy, ECK.
and your dog's name again?
Asher.
Asher. Okay. Okay, I'm gonna pull that up too. I don't like the fact that you're having to get a Cytopoint injection. So I'll pull up.
You given it to me that changed all of the meds on me because I did a consultation a couple months ago with
Right.
you again. And then because it wasn't working very well and I needed to do the gut protocol again
Right.
on him. And I've been on the gut protocol. He got better and he wasn't scratching. So I was transitioning to the new meds and I forgot to give it to him for a couple days and he stopped scratching. So I went about a month or so without him having any meds. And then he started to scratch a little. So I started it again and he's been on the gut protocol about a month now. And so I figured it was too soon, but his scratching had gotten so bad that he was up like 15, 20 times a night, just nonstop scratching and biting.
Well, the thing you got to remember is that we have, dogs that have allergies, and you'll see this when you get your Glacier Peak results back. It won't just be about food; it'll be about environmentals too. And
Yes.
so you got to remember with these environmental allergies, seasons are big.
Oh, okay.
And spring and fall are the worst time of the year. And so
Oh.
we're moving into fall patterns, and the allergy things are getting really bad right now. So I suspect that that's what happened with your timing. It was you
Okay.
moved through a period, some things started popping up that Asher's sensitive to, and you started seeing more itching. So, but I'll pull that file up this evening and take a look. And
I
go ahead.
I also ran out. I forgot. I just realized that I forgot to put the coconut oil in the gut protocol.
Yeah, you
So
want to
I
do that.
haven't had it in the last month, so I'm gonna add that in. I've got to get it this week and
Yeah.
add it in. So I know that I'll probably have to do another 3 months or so on the gut protocol or something.
Probably not that much. But coconut oil is good for reducing gut inflammation. Okay.
Okay.
That's the key. That's what the problem's all about, is that inflammation in the gut causes leaky gut. And so we've got to knock that inflammation out. And coconut oil does a pretty nice job.
Okay.
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 Well, sorry that your dog had to get a Cytopoint. Are you giving any quercetin?
No, I haven't. You haven't said quercetin.
I want you to start giving quercetin. Quercetin is we call it a natural antihistamine. It's not really. What it does is when a dog has an allergic reaction that causes itching, the mast cells in the skin break down. We call that degranulation, and it releases these chemicals, and one of the chemicals is histamine. And so
Yes.
quercetin stops the breakdown of the degranulation of mast cells. Okay. So remind me how much Asher weighs.
He's 23 pounds.
Okay, so you would be giving 1/4 the human dosage of quercetin. Okay. And usually that, if I'm not mistaken, quercetin, I think, is what for people, I think it's either 1 or 2 capsules a day. Anyway, just figure out what 1/4 of that dosage would be and give it. It's going to really help with the itching. Okay.
Perfect.
All right.
Yeah, because he got really bad the last week, and I was like, I can't keep him going through this anymore. So I was just like, but he had a Cytopoint injection back in June, and he hadn't had anything since June until yesterday.
Yeah, I bet you again it's the changing of the season. Yeah. It just tells us that things aren't fixed yet. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
Right. Yeah, and I figured if I did the food testing along with the environmental stuff, that it would help me better understand where some of the allergies were.
Yeah, and it will. But the screen that you're going to be doing, the wellness screen, is going to have food and environmentals all together.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah. They only have one screen, and that's the one you want to do.
Okay.
All right. Good. Good. All right. Like I said, I'll review that this evening and see what if I think of something, I'll shoot you an email.
Okay, sounds good. He has the colostrum that I put in it along with the gut protocol, Quick River, and one other. Hang on, I can go get it here.
Yeah, colostrum works really well for allergy dogs.
The Xiao Feng San.
Yeah.
The Tangqi something
Tanquai and Arctium. Yeah, that's really good.
Yes.
Yeah.
He's got that one, the Quick River, and the Glenia and Romania combination. Those 3, along with the colostrum and the gut protocol.
Okay. Okay, good. Like I said, I'll look over that, and if anything pops in my mind, I'll shoot you an email.
Okay, sounds good. Thank you.
Right. So it looks like we have Janice here too.
Yes. Hi,
Hi,
Janice. So glad you
Hi,
made it.
Janice.
How are you?
Oh, her mute is on.
It looked like she's driving.
Are you driving?
Her mute's on.
Yeah, she's muted.
Yeah, the only.
Oh, there she is.
I'm riding. I'm not driving.
Oh, okay. Sorry, in the car.
Looks like you were wrestling an alligator.
I'm doing, I guess, as good as could be expected.
Yeah, sure.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Janice, I'm so sorry.
So sorry.
I'm just struggling because I don't think she was ready, and I think she was telling me that. And I let people influence my decision. And I didn't
Well,
listen to her.
that's a story you're telling yourself. So my recommendation would be to drop the story. Okay, because that's just going to make you feel bad. Not going to change anything. So
No,
yeah. So
but I did what was suggested, and I sat with her.
let
And
me ask you a question. So do you think that that you're feeling guilty right now is what she would want for you?
Well, absolutely not.
That's right. So why don't we, out of respect to her, why don't we try not to feel guilty? Okay.
I'm really trying that. I'm
Yeah.
really trying.
Yeah, I know. And yeah, it's hard, but I want you to think about it from that perspective. Okay. Because that's the last thing that she wants you to do is to suffer from this. Okay. That's not her whole plan, her whole life with you was dedicated on in unconditional love. So she doesn't want to end it with anything but that.
I know.
Okay.
She was so happy. She just wanted to come home. She
Yeah.
kept trying to get up, but she was on a table, so they wouldn't let her. And it just, in my heart, I knew, and I just knew, and I didn't follow my instinct.
But you don't, the thing you have to remember, the thing we must understand is that there's nothing that we can do as pet caretakers, nothing that is going to determine whether we do it or whether the vet does it or we have no control over when they're going to transition. None, zero, absolutely.
Right.
It is up 100% to the pet. When they decide they're going to transition, they're going to transition. And there's nothing you can do about it. When and where they decide to do it, that's totally up to them. But we won't start telling ourselves these stories about this or that shouldn't have been that way. And it's, again, you just have to remember, it wasn't about you. It wasn't about the vet. It was about her because she makes that choice. I'll tell you a story. One time I remember at our clinic, we had a really sick dog, and I don't even remember what she had. It was a Cocker Spaniel. She was real, and we had her on IV fluids. And I think this dog was in an acute kidney crisis situation, and it had to be on fluids IV. And so what they would do is they would bring her to the clinic in the morning. She was hooked up on IV fluids, and they would bring her to the clinic in the morning, and they would sit with her at the clinic all day long while we ran fluids and treated this dog. And then they would go home at night. I don't remember if they would go to the emergency clinic and sit there or what, but anyway, this dog, they stayed with this dog 24 hours a day and watching that dog while it was on fluids to see if it would be fun. And this went on for about 3 or 4 days. And they brought the dog in the morning, first thing in the morning, just like they had been doing. And I mean, they had not taken their eyes off of this dog. They had not taken their eyes off of this dog 24 hours a day. 24 hours a day. And so anyway, they brought this dog in, and we went to flush the catheter out, and the catheter had gotten plugged, and besides it had been in for 3 or 4 days, and it needed to be replaced. And so we needed to put a new catheter in the dog, and we told them we're gonna have to put a catheter in. It's gonna probably take 10 or 15 minutes. And so we're going to be right here in the cage, take the dog out of the cage and put it in the treatment area. And he said, you know what we're going to do? He said, we're going to go get a cup of coffee while you change that catheter. We'll be right back. They said, we haven't had a break, and we just need a cup of coffee. And we said, sure, we'll get it done right now. And so they left, walked out of the door, and we started to put that catheter. We got the dog out of the cage, put it on the treatment table, and the dog laid over on its side and died. Like that. Boom. It was so quick. And this dog, when they brought it in, was sitting up, looking around and everything. And they hadn't been out of that door 2 minutes when that dog laid over and died. And as a matter of fact, it was so quick that I ran outside to see if I could catch him in the parking lot to catch him from leaving. But that dog was waiting for them to leave. The minute that they left, this dog passed. And I have seen this happen time and time again. So remember, it is not about you or what have you. They are totally in charge of living and dying. So that most people think that's that gives us a feeling of helplessness, but it doesn't. It gives us a feeling of freedom that says, hey, I'm not in charge of living and dying. And so I'm not in charge of my pets living and dying. I'm going to do the best that I can to support everything that every opportunity that they have for healing. And then it's going to be up to them with it, if it's within their divine plan, whether or not that's going to happen. And nothing is going to change that. Okay.
But I mean, I didn't give her she was euthanized.
Yeah.
So how does that,
Doesn't make
how does
it-
that work
it-
in that plan? Like,
It doesn't make any difference. And I know what you're saying. It appears like, oh, we made the choice to have her euthanized. Absolutely not. She's in control of that. Her soul, her individual consciousness planned this whole thing. Every bit of it was pre-planned. Every bit of it was preordained. She participated in this event, and it was all orchestrated before she came into this life divine plan. That's how it works. That's how it works. And I don't care if it's us euthanizing, choosing. We believe we're choosing these. No, we're not. We are playing the part in this dynamic life experience. We're playing the part just like an actor in a play. You know, and I've told you this story, and it's, you know, I told you about that little dog that came in with the wheels, and, you know, the paralyzed dog, and they were running around. Everybody was all happy and everything, you know, because this paralyzed dog had got this little cart. It was running around the clinic, and everybody was laughing and ecstatic, you know, because here was this paralyzed dog that now had mobility. And so they took it home after the clinic, and they were outside with the neighbors, and they were going, look, and the dog was running around playing, and everybody was clapping and yelling, and the dog ran out in the street, boom, got hit by a car and got killed. Like,
No.
boom, and everybody was like in shock. That was all orchestrated. There was no mistakes, no fault, no blame. It was all orchestrated. It was all part of the divine plan, so that experiences could happen, so that you could learn from.
Wow.
It sounds like it's, oh my God, look what happened to this. Look what happened. How could life do this to me? How could God do this to me? That's not how it works. It's not how it works. I was going to write a blog one time. I don't think I ever did it. And it was going to call, it was going to be called, it's all in the can. Have you ever heard that term before? It's in the can.
yeah.
That's about a movie, you know, it's in the can. Your life is in a can. It's just like that. And this is not some woo-woo mystical stuff. Charlie. Hi. Her nemesis, the UPS guy is probably. Anyway, yeah, this is the way it works. Have you ever heard of vertical time?
I have, yes.
Okay, have you ever heard that? Okay, this is how it works. Everything that happens is happening right now in the present moment. Everything that has ever happened, everything that's happening now, everything that ever will happen is happening right now at the same time simultaneously. And we call that vertical time. Okay. And so imagine time being like this. And it's synonymous with so many things like the chakra system and everything. Charlie, knock it off. Vertical time is like this. And that is real time. That's real time. Everything, there is only the present moment, and there will always only ever be the present moment. Okay. Now, what happens is energy does this in this vertical time, and then suddenly it gets down to what we call the human experience, and let's call it third dimensional. We call it third dimensional reality. And what happens is consciousness takes that vertical time, right, going like this, and then takes it out and goes horizontal with it. Okay. And when it starts moving, time this way, horizontally, then it creates time and space. Okay. So the creation of time and space gives us this perceived reality. That's the only way that we can have this type of reality, is to get the illusion that time goes from this point to that point. It's all an illusion. It's all an illusion. It's like me handing you this book and saying, read this book. you're going to take some time to read that book, but nothing in that book is going to change. It's already been written. So the only way you're going to take it in is to read it, and that's going to take time. You see what I mean? And that's all it is. This third dimension reality is nothing but vertical time that has been distorted into this third dimension reality that's nothing but an illusion. Somebody the other day, I was listening to them and they were calling it the mortal illusion. Yeah, perfect way. It's a dream. You know what happens at night? You have a dream, and we talked about this before. You have a dream. It seems very real, doesn't it? Doesn't it? When you're having a dream, you're in the dream. It couldn't be any more real.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, sometimes you're kicking and screaming in your bed and stuff like this and doing all kinds of weird things. And it's very, very real. I tell the story a lot. I love it. Remember when I was dreaming, and I was in this dream and I was fishing, and I was standing on a fishing dock, and I was throwing out my line, and I was reeling the lure in. And this was as real could be. And I was standing on there. Well, there's a pole down there, the pole, and I know the fish hang next to those poles. So I'm going to lean out and I'm going to throw my lure right over there. And I lean out too far, and I fall in the water. And I remember falling in the water. It was just as real as it could. It was cold and it was wet, and I was miserable, and I was pulling myself out of the water, the dock, and I was embarrassed and I was miserable. And I woke up, and it couldn't have been any more real. It couldn't have been any more. And that's what's happening right now. It's just different. It's different because you have a memory, and the expression, the length of time is different, but it's not any different. You are living in a dream that is not any more real than the dream you had last night. Okay? It's the truth. It's actually, and you can sit here and start questioning and start looking and digging deeper, and then you would realize it. You'd realize it. And so that leads us into the discussion on suffering too, okay? Because I want to talk about this, because it's something that you remember, you guys that have been with me, I know Sabrina and Jonna, have been in this group for many years. And what I used to do years ago was, you guys remember when I would take my cell phone and I would do a video, and then I would post it on the Facebook page. It wasn't an interaction. I would just post it.
Okay.
Yeah, I saw those. Yeah, I watched those before. Yeah.
And so that's what I used to do a lot. And the reason I would do them was twofold. One was that if I was out of town and I wasn't, like, remember when I'd go to Sedona a lot and I wouldn't have a computer because I was camping, and I would do one when I was out on a hike or sitting up meditating on a rock or something, I would do one. And the other thing was that sometimes when I would be working and with patients, and then several patients would have the same thing, and I would think, I need to talk about this. The universe is telling me I need to talk about this problem. So I'd make one of these short videos about whatever that topic was, and then post it. Well, I stopped doing that when we started doing Zoom meetings, because we wanted to interact more. And so I started to do one of those in regards to suffering. But then I thought, because of short notice, I like to give you guys some notice, but gosh, for the last couple of days, everybody's been talking about suffering. And I thought we need to talk about that, and to relieve some suffering. And so that's why I thought to do it this quickly. And so anyway, let's talk a little bit about this. And okay, remember, what is suffering? Suffering is a word. Okay, it's a word. And everybody has a definition of it, but it's a word, right? Isn't it? If I write down suffering on a piece of paper and hold it up and I say, what is that? The truth is, it's a word. Okay, so it's a concept. It's a concept, and we all have an idea of what suffering means. But my idea of suffering, and your idea of suffering, and Jonna's idea of suffering, and Denise's idea of suffering are all going to be different. You see what I mean? That's what concepts are for. Concepts are to get us in the ballpark so that we can communicate, and then we can sit there and philosophize all we want to about what this means or what that means. Okay, so let's take an example. Let's say that you went into let's say you've got a senior pet, and let's say you've got a 10-year-old dog or cat, and it's just been feeling really crappy for the past few days, and so you go into the vet. unless it's just not eating and it's just feeling depressed and everything. And so you go to the vet, and the vet runs a whole bunch of tests and that's all the work they can. And they come out and say, hey, you know, your cat's really sick, your dog's really sick, and we're going to give you some stuff to hopefully make it feel better and support it. But we just really don't know what's causing the problem. So we're going to sit at home and have you give this stuff, and hopefully it'll feel better. Okay. So imagine being in that situation and imagine how you feel. Imagine how you feel. Okay. You're going to be kind of, well, it could have been worse, but I still don't know what's going on. Maybe this will help. And so you kind of walk out the door a little frustrated but hopeful. Okay. And so now let's say the same scenario happened. You take this pet in and they work it up and everything, and they come out and they say, well, I got some bad news. Your pet's got cancer, got a malignancy. And thank you. And it's got a malignancy. It's got a cancer. So how are you going to react? The minute that they say cancer, how are you going to react? It's going to devastate you. It's going to be like being hit by a bus. Has anything changed with the pet? Is there anything different in regards to what the pet is doing and how it's feeling? The only thing that we've done now is we've thrown a conceptual word in there called cancer. And the minute that word cancer comes in, boom, we have an emotional reaction to it. Because we all have a story about cancer. We all have friends or family or pets that have died with cancer. And so all that stuff comes rushing back up to the surface from that one word. That one word. That's how powerful words are. Okay. And so we've got to remember that whenever we're dealing with healthcare or whatever, just in general life, how we're affected by words. And when we have words that affect us emotionally, we have to sit back there and say, am I reacting to what's going on, or am I reacting to that word? Or is it a combination of both, and the reaction to that word is making it worse? Okay. Okay. So if back to this example, so you take your dog or your cat back out to the car and you're crying because your dog or cat's got cancer, and you look at your dog and your cat and say, I got bad news. You got cancer. So what do you think your pet's going to do?
Nothing.
Start crying, following its back? No, why not? Because it doesn't understand the word cancer, right? So what if you said park or food or snack or treat? It's going to start wagging its tail, right? But it's not going to react to cancer, not like you did. Okay, all right. So let's look at the word suffering, because the word suffering is a very powerful word. I hear that every single day in my business. Every single day, I'm suffering. My pet's suffering. My pet's suffering from cancer. My pet's suffering from this. My pet's suffering that. Suffer, suffer, suffer. We hang on to that word. And what's it doing? It's doing the same thing that the word cancer does. It makes everything worse. Okay? But we're so conditioned to use it. And every time we use it, everything that's associated with suffering comes to the forefront into the present moment. So we've taken something that we've conditioned ourselves, that's a memory that's in the past that does not exist in the present moment. And we've allowed it to bring it back into the present moment so that it has an effect on us in the present moment. If we left it back there and didn't bring it in the present moment, it wouldn't affect us. Right? It can't affect us if it's in the past and we're not thinking about it. Right? The first time you got jilted by your boyfriend or your girlfriend, are you thinking about that right now? No. But the minute you think about it, you're going to feel bad. All right. Same thing with cancer. Same thing with suffering. Same thing with every conceptual word that has a negative response for you. And we've got to be aware of that. That's how we learn to transcend those things. That's what we're here as humans, is learning to transcend that stuff by knowing how that it affects us and how we can move above that. Okay. So let's say that I have a dog and I hear this all the time. My dog, before I do that, I want somebody to define suffering for me. Somebody tell me what their definition of suffering is. If you were going to
a living being going through something they can't control, whether it's environmental, circumstantial, physical, and they're moving through this and they can't control it.
Like an orgasm?
But I guess that would be something positive.
Well, you
Something extremely painful.
so
Yeah.
what okay, wait a minute, because you're saying something that's out of control, but aren't there a lot of things out of control?
Yes. No, good point.
Bring you pleasure?
No, something that maybe causes them physical harm or circumstantial harm or harm to the family or harm to
Okay. Jonna, what's your
Kind of what's happening in Israel and Ukraine, I would say that looks like suffering to me, and so painful, so helpless.
yeah, who's suffering, you or the people in
I was
everybody.
thinking, yeah, everybody. I mean, how can you be a human and have compassion and not just have your heart just horrendously hurting when you see that, and even we can't even imagine what's going on there.
Sure. And we do suffer when we hear things like that and see things like that. Yeah. Okay. Denise, how about you? Do you have a definition for suffering?
Yeah, I think more like a physical or mental pain, hardship, or distress.
Okay. Good. Good. How about you, Janice? Are you still with us?
She's
Yes.
muted, but here she comes.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get some stuff done and
Okay.
I just dropped my phone, but suffering to me is going through something that I can't fix.
Something you can't fix. What about suffering in your pet?
Well, I don't know if I would technically say my pet would suffer because I don't think pets feel like we do. I'm sure they feel pain, but I kind of say she struggles
Okay. Good.
doing things because
Struggles is a good word. Yeah. It's a good word.
maybe she's painful and she's struggling, but I don't know that a pet would understand. They don't understand what suffering is.
Good. Good. Very good. Okay. A lot of people believe that pain and suffering are the same. Okay. As a matter of fact, if you looked up Webster Dictionary, I imagine somewhere in the definition they would say that it's synonymous with pain. Okay. Now let's talk about this because it's really, really important. Have you guys read my blog? And I wrote it years ago that says pets don't suffer.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. I did a little research. Most of our words that we have in the English language come from the Greek words. Okay. Everybody understands that? The Greek word, the word suffering comes from the original Greek word called pasgo, P-A-S-G-X-O, pasgio, P-A-S-X-O. That's the word, the Greek word that suffering comes from. And it was defined by the Greeks is to feel heavy emotion. Okay, to feel heavy emotion. That's how you feel when you see what's going on in Israel. That's how you feel when you see what's going on in Ukraine. That's how you feel when you see your dog sick and what have you. So it's heavy emotional pain. Okay, that's the original definition of the word. Okay. The feeling, and this is the further definition by the Greeks, the feeling of mind, root of the word, and it's the root of the word pathos, which means strong feeling. Okay, you get where I'm going? It's about mind. Suffering is of the mind. It's not of the body.
Right.
That's really important to understand that. So when somebody says, if we think of suffering as being synonymous with pain, and somebody tells me my dog is suffering from arthritic pain, then what they're saying is that my dog is paining from arthritic pain. Doesn't make too much sense, does it? Okay.
No.
So keep that in mind, that suffering is of the mind and not of the body. Okay. And this is cool. Greek philosophy this is what they said. These are the Greek philosophers that dealt with suffering. Suffering is alleviated by achieving mental clarity, not by resolving pain, not by resolving nausea, not by healing cancer, but by achieving mental clarity and indifference to the vicissitudes of life. That means the more that you get wrapped up with the emotional reactions to life, the more that you're going to suffer. Okay? Belief that certain things are either good or bad. That's what happens when the vet says your pet has cancer. You believe that cancer is bad, and so you start to suffer mentally because you judge cancer, the word cancer, as being bad, and you have an emotional reaction to it being bad, and you start to suffer. Stoicism, the self-control in regard to suffering. So that is imperative to understand that. So when I tell people that your pets are completely incapable of suffering, then it's absolutely true. Why? Because suffering is of the personal mind, which is the same as the ego. Okay, we all know what the ego is. Pets don't have an ego. Okay, so if all suffering is associated with ego mind's interpretation and reaction to it, how in the world can a pet suffer if they don't have an ego mind?
So Dennis, when you're talking about that, just White Toe's mom, I've had White Toe her entire life. She was born in my living room, and her mom, I raised labs for quite a few years. And after she'd had 2 litters, I never let my dogs have more than 2 litters. After she had her 2 litters, and probably 2018, she was diagnosed with mammary cancer, and I'd already had her fixed. But of course, that doesn't matter. And her vet said, we're not going to treat it. Take her home and let her be a dog. And you talk about suffering, and dogs don't suffer, because she didn't know any difference that she had cancer. And I wasn't, unbelievably, I wasn't upset. I mean, I was sad, but she told me that she did scan, everything looked okay, just the mammary cancer had spread. She said, let her be a dog. It's going to travel. When it hits her spinal cord, then it's her time. This dog, to the day that she passed in the middle of the night, and she didn't even pass, I had to go and we had to let her go because it hit her spinal cord. But up until that moment, she was active, she was happy, she was running around. And that night it hit her spinal cord, and that was it.
Yeah, and that's great, and I'm glad to hear that. But let's say that she didn't. I've worked with many dogs with mammary cancer.
Right.
I've worked with many dogs with
because you're saying dogs don't understand that's not a thing for dogs suffering. She may have experienced pain, I'm sure, at moments, but she didn't know the difference one way or another.
Exactly.
And was a lively, happy dog until that night.
Okay, and that's great, and you're exactly right. But there are a lot of pets out there, and I've worked with many of them that have mammary cancer. And typically mammary cancer does not go to the spinal cord; it usually goes to the chest. And so metastasis to the chest, and I've seen those dogs linger for weeks and sometimes months, slowly losing weight, you know what I mean? What we would think of, we would call suffering. So, but the symptoms of a cachexic malignancy, okay? And we've all seen patients that had cancer. That my dad, when he had cancer, he went into the hospital, he weighed 185 pounds. When he died, he weighed 78 pounds. He just withered away to nothing. And people think that's suffering. But, and we see the same thing with pets. And we sit there and say they're suffering. No, they might be paining. There might be pain, there might be nausea, there might be whatever these symptoms that we're seeing. But the point is, they're not attaching a mental story to it. They're experiencing it in the moment. And they're not attaching a story. They're not taking it personally. You see what I mean? They're living in the moment. Pain is arising, but there's no reaction. Ego saying, "Oh my God, I've got cancer. I'm feeling bad today. Maybe tomorrow I'm going to die. Maybe today I'm going to die." All that is mental suffering, and they don't have the ability to do it. And so, and unfortunately, I've had to euthanize hundreds of pets before, and the only suffering that occurs is from the people that bring the pet into the clinic. Now, the pet might be frightened. It might be, exhibiting pain. It might be, but it's not suffering, because suffering is of the mind and it's of the ego, and they don't have it. I bless their hearts. I see these dogs that come in and are wagging their tail. And, I remember a Labrador coming, he had a little duck in his mouth. He's wagging his tail, and I'm having to give this euthanasia, and all the people are crying and everything, and he's wagging his tail. He couldn't have been any happier, his duck in his mouth. And then you see him just kind of the soul leave the body and the duck falls out, you're just crying like a baby, but he never suffered, not one moment, and he could have been that dog could have been 60% of its body weight. It could be riddled with cancer, but they're dealing with the present moment there. And the other thing too, and this is important, a lot of people don't know this, but they've done studies that show that when we react, let's say you were a tennis player and that you love to play tennis, and and I'm not talking about professionally, but I'm saying that you just play tennis every day and it just lit up your life. And let's say that you started having some pain in your knees, and when you went to the doctor and they did some workup, and they came back in and said, "I got bad news. You got rheumatoid arthritis, and your knees are going to continue to degenerate, and you're going to get to the point where you won't be able to walk without crutches." Okay. Now imagine what your mind's going to do. The first thing you're going to do is, "Oh my God, I'm not going to be able to play tennis. I'm going to get to the point where I can't even walk around." And all that stuff that's going in your mind that is forecasting the imaginary future is what causes you to suffer. If a dog has that rheumatoid arthritis, yes, they're going to deal with pain. They're going to deal with pain in the moment, and they're going to do whatever they need to do. They're going to rest themselves. They're going to do whatever, but they're not going to suffer from mental anguish about the story they're telling themselves about it. Okay, so people say, "Well, what about dogs that grieve?" We see it on the internet all the time. This dog grieved because they lost its caretaker, and it goes to the cemetery and lays on the grave. Sure, dogs have grief. Grief arises. They experience grief. They experience anxiety. They experience emotions, but they don't take it personally. It's not any different than pain. It arises, and then it leaves, hopefully. You see what I mean? They always in the present moment dealing with things face on without a story. Okay. There's one of my favorite spiritual teachers. It's a guy named wrote a book called Anthony DeMello, a great spiritual teacher. And he wrote a book called Awareness. And somebody banging around there. Anybody know what that is? Hey, Janice?
What's that?
Is that you? Is there some banging going on around?
I don't think so.
Okay.
We're driving. I'll mute.
Okay. All right. But anyway, this Tony DeMello, he's really a neat guy. He's from India, and he came over to the United States, and he spiritual guru, the whole nine yards, really good guy. And he trained, went to school over here, and he trained to be a psychotherapist. And so he was a certified psychotherapist and did therapy, but he was also a Jesuit priest. Okay, so he had all these conceptual titles and everything, but he was a super guy. And this is what he said. He said, and this is a good way to describe it. He said, before he became enlightened, he was depressed. He would get depressed. And he said, after enlightenment, depression came, but it wasn't my depression. You see? And so that's what happens. When we drop the ego mind, then things still happen. Life doesn't change. It still does the same thing. It still comes in the present moment, but we don't attach a story to good or bad, good or bad, good or bad. You see, and when we attach a story to something that's bad, then we suffer emotionally. Okay, that shouldn't have happened. This shouldn't be, that stuff in Ukraine shouldn't be happening. It shouldn't be happening. Byron Katie said the worst two words in the English language are should and shouldn't, because we're sitting there saying this shouldn't be happening. And because we judged it as bad, then we're going to start suffering. Okay. And so, you know, like somebody put something that on the internet today, and that's what they were saying. They were saying, well, this is horrible what's going on in Israel. And horrible for who? The Israelis. What about the terrorists? Is it horrible for them? No, it's not horrible for them. So horrible, bad is relative. Okay. And we're sitting there go, how could you say that it's good? And I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying that from the terrorist perspective, it's a good thing. From the victim's perspective, it's a bad thing. Same thing with 9/11. You know, that was a horrible, horrible situation. And we sit back and think, oh my God, what a bad, awful thing that happened. But the people that flew those planes into the towers, they didn't think it was horrible. They thought it was good. So good and bad is relative. And good and bad is what gives you an emotional response. And that is what causes suffering. And that's exactly what they said. Believe, and this is the Greek philosophers years and generations ago, belief that certain things are either good or bad. Self-control regarding suffering. An inner intolerance to the vicissitudes of life, meaning you have an opinion, you have judgment on what's going on and how you judge it. If you judge it bad, that it shouldn't be happening, is going to cause your suffering. Because again, our pets don't do that. God bless them. They don't do that. And the other thing that I was going to say, and I interrupted myself and went off on a tangent, is that they've done studies that showed if there's a painful situation that occurs, like that imaginary thing that I was talking about, if you had diagnosed with rheumatoid arthritis and you have pain in your knees, and the minute you start telling your story and you start having mental suffering and anguish because of your emotional output and response to that, your pain goes up insurmountably. And they have ways to measure that. So suffering adds to the pain itself.
Wow.
It makes the pain worse. So, and they've also done the reverse study in showing that dogs' pain, and that you've heard that people say, well, dogs don't elicit the same pain as people do. In some situations they do, but in a lot of situations they don't, because they don't have that emotional suffering that causes more pain to occur in a reaction, because the body is reacting to the emotional disturbance. Okay. And so how do we move forward with this? We move forward with this by being aware that our pets are totally incapable of having mental suffering, emotional suffering. They have no personal story. They have no personal mind, no ego mind, no sense in personal self. Okay. Life is just happening through them, and that's where they live in the moment. So they're incapable of suffering. We're not, because we have an ego mind and we suffer, and we've been conditioned to suffer most of our life. So what does that mean? It means that when I start to suffer, it's like when these people with cancer patients, they contact me and said, oh my God, I'm suffering, my pet's suffering because it's got cancer. No, your pet's not suffering, but you are, and your suffering is contributing to the problem with your pet. Okay. That's what we have to be aware of as pet caretakers, is that our suffering is very negative emotional. It's going to be harmful to us. It's going to have negative effects on our health, but it's also having the same response, giving the same response to our pet. It is creating more pain. It is creating more emphasis on the symptoms that they're having. Okay.
That's
and
like sorry, go ahead.
No, but it is. We have to be aware that our suffering is making things worse for them. Even though they don't suffer, our suffering is contributing to their problems. Okay. Just
That's
being,
one of the biggest things I learned from you, Dr. T. Like right when I was just first aligning with you and even with Keegan with his supposed IBDD. And the more I took videos and I was freaking out and watching him and he was doing the head bobbles, I feel looking back, that was all because of my energy. I was like, look at this, look at him, look at, the doctor said that this is a possibility and now he's doing it. You know, I feel strongly that I contributed to those manifestations of whatever behavior he was doing. And Jonna and I were just talking before you popped on here, like that Rhett's doing so well. And I feel like I feel like when I've been gone, there's been certain long weekends I've been gone and my babies have done so well with the dog sitter. And the dog sitter's like, I think they needed a break from you. Like, because they're so worried about you. It's not even like just your energy of worrying about them, but they're worried about you, you know, and they always want to make sure that you're covered, that they're around you at all times, you know,
why do you
and
think it is?
because
Why do you think it is?
I'm a energy vampire.
No, why? Because, okay, think about this. Think about this. If they're not an emotional wreck like most of us are, and especially in bad situations, okay, they're in the present moment, they're living 100% in the present moment. What do you think, even if they've got illness, what do you think their vibrational level is? What do you think their level of consciousness is? It's a lot higher.
Way above us.
It's way above us. So what
Yeah.
are they doing? They're sharing their good energy with us.
Yeah.
That's why they come to you. And it's not about them and you, it's about the consciousness, the soul that's in you, the soul that's in Kiki are of the same consciousness. They're not different. Every single one of us and every one of our pets, the consciousness that individualizes into us, that gives us life, is exactly the same. So Kiki, all of our pets know, they don't know intellectually, but they inherently know, are aware that, and they're moved by consciousness to come to us. They don't know why, they just do it. Why does the orange tree every year produce oranges? It doesn't sit back and think about it. Oh my God, I've got to produce oranges. I don't want to produce apples. No, it just doesn't. This life consciousness that moves through that tree from the time it was put into the earth until the time it started making oranges is the same consciousness that goes through Kiki, through Rhett, through me, through everybody. It orchestrates all of life. We just take credit for it because of our ego mind. I did this. I did this. I provide. It's like there's this holistic group, Facebook group, Holistic Veterinarians, and we communicate, talk about new things and everything. And this lady posted a couple of days ago. She said, "I'm going to have this seminar. You guys might join me. I'm an animal communicator and I'm an animal healer." And I put down there, it bothers me when somebody thinks that they're capable of healing another one. It just like, you know. And nobody, you know, that's why people, my wife, bless her heart, Lisa always said, God, you did such a great job with that. You did such a great job. I didn't do anything. I'm just the instrument. It's like musician playing the flute, you know, I'm the flute. Some consciousness is coming through me. There's no me. There's just this body mind that consciousness comes through and is directing everything. The only thing that says it's directed at good or it's directed at bad is the personal mind of the ego that says God shouldn't have done that, life shouldn't have done that, that car shouldn't have done that, that person shouldn't have done that, that culture shouldn't have done that, that army shouldn't have done that. That's all ego mind. Have you ever heard the guru say, there's just as much God in Hitler as there is in Mother Teresa? You can have a God, you can't have Mother Teresa without Hitler. And the reason that is because in this human state of being, it's duality. You will not be able to experience pain without joy. You can't in this perspective, but it's the only level of consciousness that does that. And so that's, again, it's all about the mind. It's all about the mind.
It's
Just-
so much easier to understand in the realm of animals, but when you apply it to humans, that's really
Yeah.
mind
It's a-
boggling.
The sad thing about it is that it's a blessing and a curse at the same time, because humans, they think that dolphins may be, that the great apes may be. There are very few species out there that have self-awareness. Okay, it's like us. We're sitting here having a conversation, and we're aware that we're having this conversation. If I sit there and ask you, how was your high school graduation, or how was your first date, or whatever, then you're going to go back and you think about it. You're going to have this reaction. Well, it might have been 30 years ago, but the reason that you have a memory of it is because not only did you participate in that activity, but you were aware that you participated in that.
Theory of mind,
Do what?
right? Theory of mind.
Theory of mind, yeah. Self-awareness. Humans have been blessed and given the ability to have self-awareness. And the problem is that we don't stay objective. We don't stay neutral with self-awareness. We created an imaginary ego that judges everything as to whether it's good or bad, everything that's happening. And the guru will sit there and see everything is objective, everything is neutral. And in the realization that it's all an illusion, So that's what we have to do. The more that we're aware of so much of it being in our personal mind, in our ego mind, it creates great suffering in our lives. And we have to be thankful that our beloved pets are totally incapable of doing that. So when people say, if you tell somebody that your pet doesn't, they're going, of course my pet suffers. It's got pain, it's got nausea, it's been vomiting, etc. That's not suffering. That's physical. And suffering is always of the mind, always. Okay?
That's a great peace of mind for the animals. I mean,
It's great to know that. I mean, it's great to know that.
So then I'm listening and I'm kind of ingesting a lot of this and understand this has made me feel so much better. My ego took a hit because my dog could always fix me, but I couldn't fix her.
That's
about my ego. She could always make me feel better. She could always fix what I was feeling. Just being with her made me better. And this was a big hit to my ego because I couldn't fix her.
See, and again, I know that how you're feeling with that, and it's a wonderful thing because yes, they are totally devoted to us, animals. That's why they come into our lives. That's why they chose to do this before we came into this life. It's all in the can. It's all been preordained. That's why people say, well, I went out and I adopted a dog. No, the dog chose you. It's a mutual thing. It was all prearranged. We all have these wonderful stories. Oh my God, I would have never found this pet, and it's like, no, it's been sitting there waiting for you in the shelter. Are they ever going to come? Are they ever going to come? So, and then you come and there it is. And they do some little thing that they're supposed to do to get your attention. And it's all prearranged. And that's the same thing again with you. All of this Janice, is prearranged.
Yeah.
The only thing that's telling you that you didn't live up to your part of it is your ego mind saying that
Right.
life
Exactly.
Yeah. And so you just have to say,
and I agree with that because with the whole prearranged, Chloe was my dog. She had puppies. White Toe was a puppy. She was the runt. I nursed her. I gave her away for 2 months and she didn't work out because she wanted to be with me. And then she came back and she's been with me ever since. She chose me. She chose me. She wasn't happy where she was. She just sulked all the time. But every time she came over to my house, which was often, I was the first one she ran to see. And I don't think about those kind of things right now because I'm grieving. And maybe this was a really good thing for me to do tonight because
let me give you a little
My
basic,
ego took a hit. It's huge. I'm feeling
Ah.
it right
and then okay, and how many? I mean, I know that Jonna and Sabrina have heard this more than they probably want to hear. Is that hang on a second. Hey, kind of loud in there.
Hey, Lisa.
Anyway, God, what was I going to say now?
That me and Jonna have probably heard it.
Yeah, what was it? What was it? But anyway, it's that same old thing about us believing that we are in control of anything in this life. You know, and I know I said this. Have you ever been to the fair? And you, again, you've heard this, and you know the kids get in the little boat, and that it's floating in the water, and it starts going, and they're doing the steering wheel like this, and they're going turn, and then they're going no, turn, and they get out, and their mom, dad, look, I rode the boat, I drove the boat, I turned the wheel and everything, and then underneath the water you see that there's a wheel that's on a rail, that's taking it around. That's what life is about. We're doing this and doing this and doing this and doing that, and life is just taking us right along. And the more that we convince ourselves that we're doing this and we're doing that, and that it should be going this way instead of that way, then the more that we say that life should not be doing that, then the more we're going to suffer. Life does not make mistakes. Life is about experiences. But this is what I meant to say, that every time we go through a situation, just like what you've been through, Janice, it's an experience that the reason that it's happened is so that you have the opportunity to learn from this experience. And when our pets die, when our pets get sick and they die, I call this the last blessing that they have to offer us, because that gives us the ability to transcend the ego, to see through the ego, to transcend fear and find unconditional love. That's what it's about. That's what all suffering is about, so that we can transcend it and see that it's not real, transcend it, and move back into the truth. And they give us the opportunity to do that, because if we don't have bad experiences, then we never will be motivated enough to work through this and to transcend that fear, transcend those feelings, transcend that guilt, transcend that grief, because of all human emotions, and they have no reality. No reality. And if you do, and I tell people all the time, and I walk with these people that have, my dog's got brain tumor and it's been given a month to live, and I sit there and say, okay, remember, your dog is going to die, transition when he or she wants to. It's not a brain tumor. It's about when that soul, that individual consciousness says, I'm ready to leave the body. And nothing is going to change that. We don't have the ability to. So if we accept that, and I tell people that have pets that have terminal, and you know what? People say, my dog's got a terminal disease. And I say, yeah, it's called life.
Mm-hmm.
The minute they're born in a body, that we know that sometime that body's going to die. So why don't we just say all of life is terminal, right? Because it is, but it's not real. Really, life is everlasting, but the body doesn't. See, so the body's not going to live forever. So why don't we accept that? So let's get back to the cancer situation. So here's this person that's grieving, or that's anxiety-ridden, desperate, because this pet's got cancer, and they don't know if it's going to live for a month or if it's going to live for 5 months or whatever. And I say, drop that fear, drop that worry, because nothing that you're going to do is going to change the ability for that dog to decide when it's going to do it. So drop that. So imagine that there's this imaginary X on the calendar. You don't know when it is. The dog is the only one that knows when that time is. Okay. So you don't know if it's going to be tomorrow or next year. So you sit there and say, it's there, nothing that I can do to change it. So what does that leave us with? Because first of all, there goes the desperation. If I can't do anything to change it, why be desperate about it? Boom, suddenly we feel better. Okay. And then what do? We sit there and say, what does that leave us with? If I can't determine the outcome of this, what does it leave you with? Should I just sit on the couch? No, you can't sit on the couch any more than you can't avoid calling me, because there's no you. You're being directed. You're like the child with the deal, you know? No, you're being directed. That's why you called me. That's why I'm going to tell you what's going to happen to help you. So what does it leave us with? If we don't have the ability to change that X on the wall, and what does it leave us with? Two things.
Love or fear?
Love is do your part as your pet do your part as a responsible pet owner. Do whatever you can to try to help your pet. In other words, say, here it is. I'm going to offer all this stuff to you for you to heal if you want to. If you want to, that's your responsibility. And then you say, what else? You do it from a perspective of unconditional love. If you choose not to heal, that's not going to change how I love you, because I love you unconditionally.
I
And
know.
I'm grateful for every moment that I have with you, and nothing, not cancer, not anything is going to change that. I'm going to transcend that fear. I'm going to transcend those fears of anxiety and the desperation and stuff like that. Every time that feeling comes into my mind, every time those thoughts come in there, I'm going to go, whoa, I'm not going to waste this moment in fear. I'm going to turn my attention back on my pet, and I'm going to turn my attention back on the unconditional love that I have. Because when you do that, you transcend fear. You do it enough, then your level of consciousness will rise above fear, and you will reach unconditional love. And guess who's there waiting for you? Your
Pet.
pet.
Yeah.
Pet is up there saying, come join me. And the only way you can join me is by dropping the fear. You can understand it, but you have to be aware of it. You have to do it so that you're aware of it. Then you go, oh my God, you transcend fear. And you're like, oh my God, why haven't I been living like this my whole life? That's why we have these experiences, because consciousness wants you to transcend fear. It wants you to have a beautiful life. It wants you to have a bountiful life. It does not want you to believe that life is a burden, because it's not. The only thing that creates a burden in your life is your mind.
Mhm.
Okay? That's suffering. Be bigger, be bigger. It's not like the true self, that consciousness that's in you that gives you life every morning that you wake up, is unconditional love itself. So you don't have to manufacture anything. All you have to do is get that wall out of the way, that's your ego mind, all this conditioned stuff, get it out of the way and let your light shine. That's what you're here for. You're here to let your light shine. Because how many times are you sitting there at an outside restaurant or something and see somebody walk up with a dog? What does your heart do? It starts opening up.
Mhm.
Why? Because their light shining through to you, and your light shining through to them, and you feel it. But what happens? Do you do the same thing with the person that's at the other end of the leash?
No.
Oh. And why is that? Because of our ego. You think the light that's in that person is any different than the light that's in that dog? No, it's the
It
same.
depends.
No, it's the same. It's the same. You just put up a screen so that you don't feel that. And because of your ego mind, it's saying that's a human, and I love dogs better than I love humans. Love is unconditional. It doesn't say I love dogs and cats. I love cats better than I love dogs, but I love dogs better than I like cats. But boy, I love both of them better than I love people. If there was a God, imagine what God would have to say about that. I created man in my reflection, and you're telling me that you don't love man, so you don't love me. Isn't that what? Yes. So every time you say I don't love this person, or I don't love that person, or I don't love this, or I don't love that, you're saying I don't believe that you're God consciousness. I don't believe you're the light. And that's all ego. And when you drop the ego, we start to see that, and the light shines through everybody that you see, and through every tree, and through every rock, then oneness shows itself. Boom. You're living in a state of mind that we call bliss or heaven or whatever you want to. And people are doing it all the time now. And they see everyone as just individualized consciousness and bliss. Life is blissful then. Now, wouldn't that be cool? Do you want to wait until your body dies until you experience that? No. You can do it right now. You can do it right now. That's what you're here for. Otherwise, you're going to come back again, go through the same old crap with the same old ego mind and carry these samskaras in from previous lifetimes until you transcend it, go to higher consciousnesses and say, boom. Ah, no need to be doing this karma stuff. No need.
Yep.
That's why we found you to
Exactly.
for the reminder of
You're
that.
our leader.
All right.
Dr. Thomas, this is Denise. I was going to say there was a spiritual person that told me once that when we experience grief, it's not the person or the pet that we lost that we're grieving. We're grieving how they made us feel. And I wanted to argue with them and say, that's not true. But they were right. The way they make you feel is what you grieve.
Well, that's a good story. And it's a story that makes us feel good, but it's a story. Okay.
Okay.
And it is really the truth. Let me tell you something. It's really simple. It's really simple and it's hard to believe, but it's really simple and it's absolutely the truth. Anything that makes you feel bad, anything, whether it's a thought, an emotion, an action, an event, a memory, anything that makes you feel bad is not in alignment with the truth. Truth is synonymous with unconditional love, God consciousness, Christ consciousness, source energy, Atman, whatever you want to call it, is unconditional love. If in its joyful expression, if it doesn't make you feel joyful, you are not seeing it or feeling it or interpreting it truthfully. That is so simple. If it hurts, it's not real. If it's hurt, transcend it. Find joy in every moment. That's what you're here for, to find joy in every moment. Because it's your nature. You are joy. It's just like the dog coming into the restaurant. It's not sitting back there thinking, okay, I like that guy or that guy or that guy, and I don't like that person. He's too whatever. The sun shines down just as much on the roses as it does on the weeds. Okay, that's your job. Your job is to shine on everyone. Jesus said, and believe me, I'm not a religious soul, but Jesus said, love your enemy as you love yourself. Why? Because it is yourself.
Yeah.
It is yourself. And if you don't love your enemy, you're not loving yourself. And if you're not loving yourself, then you're never going to find bliss. You're never going to find the truth. And it gives us opportunity. Why do you think that this war in Israel is happening right now? Why do you think this war in the Ukraine is happening right now? Well, because this culture doesn't like this culture. This person, Putin, doesn't like this. No. It's because we are having an experience now that we have the opportunity to transcend and find the truth in this experience. That's what it's all about. I was talking to Lisa about this the other day. In this human perceived reality, we see cause and effect like this. I think I put this on our Facebook site. That's cause and effect. Boom, I hit my hand and that hurts. That's cause and everybody knows cause and effect, right? I drop this pick and it falls to the ground. Okay, that's not how it works. That's how it appears to work, but that's not how it works. Cause is higher consciousness. All cause is of mind. Everything in this perceived reality, even this, is effect. Nothing in this perceived third dimensional reality is cause and effect. It's all effect. It's all because mind has projected it down here. Okay? And the only thing that's misleading us is this appearance of this, and it's not how it works. We go, yeah, of course. I went to school, I got a degree, and this is it. No, it started with mind as cause, and then effect was stretched out so that you went to school, got your degree, and da-da-da-da-da. So what does that mean? It means nothing in this level of consciousness is responsible for affecting anything else. It's impossible. Impossible. But our ego mind
That's heavy
tells us
stuff.
it's heavy, heavy, heavy stuff. But our ego mind sits there and says, no, that's crazy. That's crazy. But it's the truth. It's absolutely the truth. So if you want to change your perceived reality, then you have to work on mind. Because all of your reality is projection of mind. Think about this. If here's this individual body consciousness, and consciousness is coming and going through and projecting through like this. And if it were not distorted reality, then everything would be bliss. But we allowed this mind thing to create this personal mind ego, and consciousness is moving through that ego, like putting on a lens that's distorted reality into bad and good. That's how it works. So all the spiritual teachers, everybody will tell you, if you want to know the truth, get rid of the ego. Get rid of the ego, and that Christ consciousness, whatever you want to call it, comes through and projects your reality the way that it should be, and that is bliss. Okay?
Mhm.
Okay.
All right. Pretty
I have
heavy.
to watch this on replay like 5 more times.
Oh, me too. Oh, I just want to keep this because it's so,
Yeah,
this is
beautiful.
really, really
It
good.
sounds heavy. It's not heavy at all. It's the truth. Why? Because there's something inside you that already knows this.
Yes.
Just saying, oh yeah,
Yeah.
that resonates with me because it's the truth.
Yeah.
So what do? We sit there and say, I got to figure this out. I got to figure, that's like you. I'm going to watch this 5 times so I can figure it out. No, that's just going to confuse you more. So what do? You be quiet.
Yeah.
That's the opposite. You be quiet. And when you be quiet, within the stillness, you find the truth. Truth only comes from the stillness.
It's going to
Charlie,
be hard not to tune into CNN every 5 minutes.
okay, if you were watching a play, if you were watching a movie where this was happening, CNN, you would sit there and go, oh, that's bummer. That's what you would feel the emotions and stuff like that. But you would also know that it's not real. Isn't that right? So
If I was
people that are
enlightened.
enlightened, just like Tony DeMello said, depression comes, but I know it's not my depression. All this life is going on, but I know that it's not real. So what does it mean? It means to go in there and participate, enjoy the highs, enjoy the lows, but never forget that it's not real. It relieves the burden. It lines you with truth. And then when it actually happens, then again, there goes the duality, there goes the expression, and all things are bliss. Are you leaving?
Denise was leaving.
Oh, bye,
Send a
Denise. Well,
message.
I'm going to cut it off anyway.
She's
So
gone.
yeah, okay. So I'm going to wrap it up. I appreciate
you so much.
Dr.
Yeah.
T, thank you, because it's such an important message right now. When I saw that you posted that, I was like all emotional, because I mean, we all have enormous hearts, and everything that's going on right now, I think that was really important.
All you are is heart. That's all you are is heart. You're nothing but heart.
You are.
No, you are.
Anytime that something shows up that doesn't feel like heart, that's just the ego creating an illusion. Okay? It's not real. It's not real. Just be in your heart. Be in your heart. I call it the heart mind. Just be in your heart.
Yeah.
Be yourself. You are the heart. Like
Mm.
John is the heart. Okay? Just like Lisa is. Just like everything is.
You.
Do what?
Even you.
You.
Oh, okay, guys. Well, I'm going to let you go. It's been a wonderful
You
experience.
can't take a compliment.
I know, never.
No. Okay. Namaste. Namaste. Namaste.
Namaste.
Okay.
Namaste. Love you guys.
See you.
Love you,
Bye.
Sabrina.
Thank you.